All eyes, of course, are going to be on the election results tonight, who's going to win at the top of the ticket, the Senate races, etc. But we wanted to take a minute to zoom out and look at the overall landscape of the country, which, look, the bottom line is whichever candidate wins, we are in very troubled times with a lot of deep problems and anxiety in this country. The New York Times had some new numbers on this front that I wanted to bring to you. So look at these numbers of how many Americans are concerned that the next generation is going to be worse off. I mean, that is a stunning number and maybe the most critical metric of how we're doing as a society. If only 6% are saying, no, absolutely, the next generation is going to be better than I mean, that is so counter to our whole sense of the American dream and sense of the inevitability of progress, which we've had and held in this country for decades. I thought that was incredibly interesting. You see overwhelming majorities worried about losing American democracy. I mean, this certainly would also cross party lines. Only 10% are like, no, we're good. Lots of people, 73%, still worried about getting sick with COVID. Majorities worried about climate change. Majorities worried that you'll be unable to speak your mind. Majorities worried that community is changing for the worse. A lot of people worried about crime. So you can just see overall, to me, though, that next generation worse off number, Saagar, is so telling about how pessimistic Americans are right now about the future of this country.
That is the entire story to me, which is that if you don't believe that your kids are going to be better off than you, then what's the whole point of this whole thing? Like, what's the whole point of life? That's literally the primary drive of human evolution, is to stay alive and procreate. And then in order to keep your kids better off and keep them alive so that they can do the same thing. If you don't think that leads to some deep nihilism. And I think that is what you see within our politics. We have that chart of how many Americans feel about how the country is going. Let's throw that up there on the screen. It very much comports with what we're talking about. Only 19% of the country has satisfaction with the United States, only matched by the Great Recession low of 7 since they've been measuring since 1980. It's not a surprise, I think, that we're at 19. And frankly, surprise isn't a little bit lower. And no matter who wins, these are all macro political trends which cross every single party line. If you go and you look back at the failed promise of so much of Trump's presidency, which is his American carnage speech was decried, his inaugural address was decried as like dark and all, but he hit the right tone.
He did.
That is what's reflected right there. Lack of satisfaction in the United States, next generation off. That is American carnage. And he could have ended it. And I think that one of the reasons I don't think he's going to win tonight is because he didn't lean even farther into that and try to enact a program where people do feel that they're going to be better off with their kids than and especially than they were 4 years ago. And I think that it's the most important metric that we have. I don't think it's going to improve under Biden whatsoever. And that's the future of American politics. Can you solve that problem?
Yeah.
If you can, you will win.
I mean, if you think back throughout American history, you think about like the New Deal era, which forged this kind of certain mode of governance and certain social compact with the government. Then you had the rebuke of that was like the Reagan era, the neoliberal era, this like super hyper markets focused way of being. And now we're in this place where it's really clear the old order has broken down. I mean, and I'm not just talking about here. This neoliberal consensus is breaking down all around the globe. You see it reflected in politics in every corner of the world. And yet there hasn't been a new thing built. And what we see, with Donald Trump, I think he had an opportunity, actually, when he won in 2016 to forge whatever that was going to be. He didn't do it. He reverted back to the same old, stylistically, yes, he's very different. But in terms of operating, in terms of the actual policies that he passed and got through, sort of standard issue, Republican conservative stuff that could have come from a Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan, et cetera, which is why I agree with you. He's in, pretty poor position to get reelected right now. We know what Joe Biden is going to look like. He's not capable of forging a new consensus or building something new. It's not an easy thing to do, by the way, but that very much looks like a continuation of that broken down neoliberal consensus that has failed here and is failing around the globe. So part of why, I think both of us feel troubled as we look towards the future is that there isn't anyone out there who has offered what that new consensus is going to be. whichever candidate ultimately wins. I don't think we have great hope that they're going to be the ones that are going to ultimately bring us out of that place. And so this is the landscape that faces us. In a way, of course, it's troubling. In another way, I think it's also helpful as we head into this deeply partisan, fraught political battle to also remember not only the potential bright side, but the challenges that face us all as Americans that bind us across party lines, not to be too hokey here.
I think that's certainly correct. All right, tomorrow on Rising, Team Rising is going to break down the results of the election.
And tonight is the night that we've all been waiting for, fearing, dreading, excited for. I don't know, fill in your adjective there. Make sure to watch though, however you feel, our special election night show tonight starting at 8 p.m. We are gonna have all the latest results and analysis. We're going to have all kinds of reporters, journalists all over the country in the key battleground states giving us updates. We're going to have an amazing panel, including Kyle Kondik, Ryan Grimm. They're going to give their perspectives on the night. Of course, you do not want to miss it. And remember, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, don't forget to like and share as well. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you back here tonight.
See you tonight.